Hello and welcome to 1878. I only have about a half hour to do this first episode because someone is going to be using the phone soon, so I'm told, and that is disruptive since he'll be right below me. So we have to get right into it. This is Eliza's diary, Eliza Sparrow from 1878. If you want to learn more about Eliza, go to some past videos. Because I'm not going to go over her life again right now. I don't have the notes right here. And hopefully you've seen the other videos. Yeah, go back and check out like the first couple videos from Eliza for more on her. But in 1878, she is 49. Or no, wait, she turns 50 or 51. I can't remember. She turns 50 or 51 this year. But so I like to get started with a couple things that are going on in the world or in the US, things I think are interesting or relevant to our writer in that year. So we just kind of get an idea of what the world was like at that time. So let's see. January 10th, US Senate proposes female suffrage. January 14th, U.S. Supreme Court rules race separation on trains unconstitutional. February 11th, first weekly weather report published in the UK. February 21st, telegraph manager George Coy of New Haven, Connecticut, issues the world's first telephone directory issued. A single page contains info for 50 subscribers. May 2nd, U.S. stops minting the 20-cent coin. June 15th, the world's first moving pictures caught on camera. And I'll put it over here. I'm not exactly sure how this worked. I guess they would, show one picture at a time. I used 12 cameras, each taking one picture. And it was done to see if all four of a horse's hooves leave the ground. Yeah, they didn't know before then, I guess. July 20th was the first telephone was introduced in Hawaii. July 26th, in California, poet and American West outlaw calling himself Black Bart makes his last clean getaway when he steals a safe box from a Wells Fargo stagecoach. The empty box found later with a taunting poem inside. So I have a bit about him. His name was Charles E. Bowles, born about 1829 and last seen February 28th, 1888. He was an English-born American outlaw, noted for the poetic messages he left behind after two of his robberies. Often called Charlie by his friends, he was also known as Charles or C.E. Bolton. Considered a gentleman bandit with a reputation for style and sophistication, he was one of the most notorious stagecoach robbers to operate in and around Northern California and Southern Oregon during the 1870s and 1880s. I wonder if there's a movie about him. September 25th, British physician Dr. Charles Drysdale warns against the use of tobacco in a letter to the Times newspaper in one of the earliest public health announcements on the dangers of smoking. October 18th, Edison makes electricity available for household use. November 28th, Whistler versus Ruskin, the most famous trial in art history, ends with artist James McNeill Whistler awarded a token farthing in compensation after suing the writer and critic John Ruskin for libel, seeking £1,000 damage. So basically he brought a libel lawsuit against this art critic because he wrote a scathing critique of Whistler's painting Nocturne in Black and Gold, The Falling Rocket. A staunch proponent of art serving a moral and societal purpose, he derided the work as flinging a pot of paint in the public's face, contrasting sharply with Whistler's belief that art's value lies in its aesthetic qualities and ability to evoke emotion, independent of moral or narrative obligations. Whistler won the case but received only a token farthing in damages. While the trial spotlighted the era's ideological clash between art for beauty's sake and art as a moral force. It's an interesting one. I'm not totally sure which side I am on. December 26th, on this day, December 26th, 1878, John Wanamaker brought electric lighting to his store in Philadelphia, the first ever department store to do so. So before that, arc lamp lighting was used. The carbon arc lamp, the first commercially successful electric light, provided a super bright illumination that could light large areas like streets and factories and was cheaper than gas or oil lamps from 1800 to 1901. However, its drawbacks included the need for frequent replacement of carbon rods, dangerous UV radiation, buzzing and flickering, radio frequency interference, and significant safety risks such as fire hazards, electrocution, and carbon monoxide emissions. While effective for its time, its limitations made it impractical for modern, energy-efficient, airtight buildings. So, and about Wanamaker, didn't the guy who created Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer work for Wanamaker? I could be wrong. Anyway, Wanamaker set out to create an American equivalent to London's Royal Exchange or Paris's Les Halles, a large upscale establishment bringing together under one roof anything a person might need. But he went one step further than the European markets, creating amenities never before seen anywhere. Very cool. So on this day, he brought electric lighting to his store in Philadelphia. And then the following year, he brought the telephone to the store. Wanamaker's stores catered to an upper middle class, advertising a focus on quality. Materials were guaranteed to be high quality, but customers who were not satisfied could bring back their purchases for a refund, an unheard of concept at that time. A pious man, Wanamaker refused to advertise on Sundays and also created the first price tag. People would not haggle. The price displayed was the price paid. If all people are equal before God, he reasoned, all people should pay the same price in his stores. Oh no, there's a sad kitty outside. I guess I have to let him in, and then we'll get started on Eliza's diary. Oh, we got some knitting here. Actually, I started that a while ago, and I forget how to do it. I just made myself a hat. It's over there. Things just kind of get set aside and forgotten. I don't know, I go through these phases with knitting, like I really wanted it, and then I just don't want to knit. So I've got like 3 scarves going. And a dress. Oh boy. But the next thing I'm going to do are some matching mittens for the hat. I learned to thrum, although I think I did a poor job. Hopefully it's at least effective. But whatever. I'm going to do some thrummed mittens next to stay nice and warm. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Off into 1878. Why do I keep forgetting what year it is? I have about 20 minutes to finish this. And then I'm going to take a break while someone's on the phone, maybe go to the post office, and then come back and film more. Because that was the plan today. Tuesday, January 1st. Our little family of 4 are together. The day pleasant. No snow. Now that everybody has gone through the compliments of the season and the Happy New Year, it may be well for us to recall the fact that the present year will be much the same as those that have preceded it. Toil and disappointment will continue to be the principal features in human destiny. Such an occasion as this, however, is a good time to break off bad habits and connections generally. Thousands of good resolutions have no doubt been made, and if ever a few of them are maintained, it will be a compensation for the effort. Wednesday and Thursday are blank. Friday, January 4th. This evening, Josie and Sanford made some kraut. They cut it with knives. There is but a little of it. The cabbages were poor. Saturday, January 5th, Josie and Sanford went to Oneida with Nellie before the bobsled. It is their first sleigh ride this winter. Josie said it would have been better if they had taken the wagon. Next 2 days or Sunday to Tuesday are blank. Wednesday, January 9th. This afternoon, also, sometimes I cannot make out the name and I haven't figured them out yet. I have figured out many names and like kind of a family tree of sorts, which I should probably create and share with you. So you know how people are connected. I'll get on that. Some names I haven't been able to make out. There's one that looks like it starts with an ST, like a last name, Stanton or something, and I'm not sure. So I'll just, S. Came and butchered our 2 pigs. They were more than a year old. Morse helped. That's another neighbor, or I think he rents from them. We expected Sally. Mrs. Schumann came and stayed quite a time, bringing us a very large bowl of sauerkraut. S. stayed the evening, and I sent to Mother Sparrow and Sally some cake and cheese, apples and a nice little paper bag of nice popped corns, and a cup of rice pudding. So Mother Sparrow is her husband's mother, and I'm not sure who Sally is. Next day's blank. Friday, January 11th. Today prepared calamus from the flag that Sanford dug some time ago. I had 1 pound, 1 ounce of the flag after it was sliced and used just 5 pounds of sugar for it. First boiled it in water some time, throwing it off and putting a little more on with the sugar. Let it boil until it grains and looks rough on the sliced flag. This is a larger quantity than we ever had before. So I wasn't sure what that was. And it's probably something called flag root or sweet flag. It's used medicinally to treat digestive issues, colds or fevers, and the rhizome or the underground stem could be used as a flavoring or sweetener. So I'm not sure how they eat this. They were slicing it and sugaring it. Maybe it was kind of a dessert, but we'll put it in the recipe book. I'm not sure if I can buy that so I can try it, but again, I want to make a recipe book, especially for Eliza's old recipes. There aren't too many yet, so. Saturday, January 12th, I tried the leaf lard today. Josie thinks we have about blank pounds of it. Sanford rode black up to Verona for the mail. He brought me a letter from Mrs. Shaw, in parentheses, Jane Gilchrist. I had looked a long time for its coming. So leaf lard, I didn't know what that was either. Leaf lard is a type of high-quality pork fat, specifically rendered from the fat surrounding the kidneys and loin of the pig. Creamy and smooth texture, virtually no pork flavor when properly rendered. We're learning things. Next few days are blank. Thursday, January 17th. This afternoon, Josie went to Verona Depot to get the large, unabridged, something I couldn't read, dictionary that Mr. Brown has sent us as a premium for the Independent, taken for 3 years, in advance $9. Brown says in the Independent columns that the dictionary is worth $10. You guys, as of today, $9 today would be $284.10, and $10 would be $315.66. This is a pricey dictionary. I think they bought something else, some other book. Oh yeah, maybe that comes later, like a history of Oneida. That was also like $10. These things were expensive. I mean, they spend more on a book than they do on some clothing. So, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering about, the general price of books at that time. I'll have to look that up. Next day is blank. Saturday, January 19th. Today we have been deep in sausage works. On this account, and not feeling well, I have put off baking bread. About 4 o'clock, in walked Lucius. I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, but I think it's Lucius Goodyear. When we came to weighing the sausages preparatory to adding the seasoning, we found we had 86 pounds. This is a larger quantity than we ever had before. Sunday, January 20th, pleasant. Old Mr. Walby is to be buried today. I think we should have attended the funeral if Lucius had not been here. Monday, January 21st, Lucius left after breakfast. Before going, he gave Sanford 50 cents. He's going to Syracuse. Next few days are blank. Friday, January 25th, this afternoon a buggy drove into the yard, and who should it be but Emma and Case? And they are related, and I'm blanking on how, if it's on her husband's side or her side, but I gotta make that family tree, because it's been a while, and I forget. She said she was going to Oneida with Mr. C, but we prevailed upon her to get out, which she did without much urging. Case came back in a little while, and we had a very good visit. They spent a part of this evening. We gave Emma a bag of our sausages and a large piece of hard cheese. Josie's family are living at their house. Don't know what that means, really. Saturday, January 26th. This afternoon, Josie and Sanford drew coal from Verona Depot. Nellie drew the first load and was gone 50 minutes. Black went the next time, and Nellie the third time. As they went, they met Jane Gilchrist, walking up from the depot. This fact surprised us, as I had received a letter from her written January 1st, and she did not mention coming. Sunday, January 27th, a beautiful day for winter. All through the day I've looked for Jane G. to run in, thinking she may go home tomorrow, but she did not come. I was anxious to see her, and also to ascertain how Mrs. G. is, so Sanford and I went over in the evening. I beheld a little baby girl there, born about 1 o'clock Saturday morning, weighing 9 pounds 1 ounce. I invited Jane to come to tea Tuesday. She said she should go to Oneida Monday. Monday, January 28th, I put out quite a large washing, wrote a letter to H.C. Brown and one to W.C. Stone, acknowledging premiums received from them. Josie went to Verona to pay our taxes. They were $16. In the evening, made ice cream, the first this winter. So their taxes were $505.06. I don't understand. They're spending a lot on books, but they must not be making a lot of money if that's how much they paid in taxes. I do not know if she ever mentions their income. Tuesday, January 29th, the day dawned bright and pleasant but cold. About 10 o'clock Jane came, but she said she could not stay but a short time. We felt very much disappointed not having her stay the afternoon. She seemed anxious to get to her home, saying her husband would meet her at the depot. I gave her a dish of creams and cinnamon cake. Maybe a dish of cream? Look at that. Wednesday, January 30th, this afternoon, I sent a note to Mr. Jackson, the teacher, inviting him to spend this evening with us. When Sanford came from school, I learned he had an engagement for tonight, so he invited him to come tomorrow evening. Next day's blank. Friday, February 1st. Oh, the beautiful snow. The earth has more than a foot of this white covering. It begins to seem as if we had gone back to our old kind of winters. Saturday, February 2nd. In the afternoon, Sanford and I went with the cutter and Old Black to Oneida. Josie went with the Bobs and Nellie for lumber. Ma stayed alone. It was my first sleigh ride this winter. I think I spelled that wrong. As we were dressing to go, Mrs. Morse came to the door and asked if they could have one horse to go 3 miles beyond the castle to see her sick mother. It is the first time she ever has been here. She did not come in. Sunday, February 3rd. About noon, Morse came for Black and the cutter to go see Mrs. Spaulding. They came back about 7 o'clock and came into the house with Etta until Morse went home and made a fire. Monday, February 4th, Sanford came from school telling us he had turned teacher. Mr. Jackson had called upon him to hear classes read and spell. During the day, he heard 5 classes. I'm not totally sure what this responsibility means. Tuesday, February 5th, Mr. Morse came over bringing Etta. Mrs. Morse had gone to see her mother 3 miles beyond the castle. The doctor thinks she cannot live more than 24 hours. Mrs. Morse will stay the night with her. Wednesday, February 6th, Sanford went as usual to school this morning, but came home in a little while, saying there would be no more school until next Monday. The teacher is sick. Mr. Morse brought Etta over again about 10 o'clock to stay until he could bring 2 loads of wood from our woods. He does not know what time Mrs. Morse will get back. Mr. Clock paid Josie $5 today for 500 hop poles. Thursday, February 7th, about 11 o'clock this morning, Mrs. Morse came, saying she would like to leave Etta for about 2 hours while she went again to see her mother. She came back at 3:30 o'clock. There seems to be little change in her mother. She remains unconscious and has not spoken since last Monday. Friday, February 8th, today I'm feeling so tired that I feel in hope no change, like Etta will come. I'm not totally sure what she means here. She is a very smart child, not 3 years old until next July, but wants someone to look after her almost constantly. Saturday, February 9th. Today, Mr. Mary kindly brought over mail. Among the weeklies was a letter from Cousin Leave. Is it Leave or Lev? I forget again. I think it's Leave. She writes that she felt so disappointed last, and then she must have gotten interrupted and didn't finish it. So, Sunday, February 10th, I intended to answer Cousin Leave letter, but did not. It seems pleasant to answer immediately. Then it is more like a personal chat, but living so far from the post office as we do, is a preventative often, and my multiplicity of cares another. Next day's blank. Tuesday, February 12th, Mr. Morris was in this morning, and he says Frank Schumann is to be married tomorrow, and there was to be a dance at Schumann's in the evening, and he had been invited but was not going. Sanford came home from school at recess p.m. and went to Verona for coal, so I rode down as far as Schumann's with him. I went to return a napkin that belonged, get some blanks here, belonged blank, that came blank, the loaf of bread, maybe around a loaf of bread or something. I blank of Mrs. S where blank was here. Sometimes I just can't make things out. She told me she expected about 40 tomorrow night. She says Delph Patton is to be married tomorrow. Probably inquired of Mrs. S. I don't know. When Wednesday, February 13th, Frank Schumann and Etta Brown were married at 3 o'clock at Mr. Brown's. We saw the guests as they passed by to the wedding. They made quite a respectable appearance. First were Schumann's sleigh, filled to overflowing. I think a part of them were from Utica. Then followed 2 good cutters. Thursday, February 14th, the day beautifully clear and a little frosty. I thought of driving over to Mrs. Hinman's this afternoon to call, but did not. After school, Sanford went to Verona Depot for a load of coal, saw Arthur Stanton, and he said they were talking of coming here tonight, but he guessed they should not, but perhaps they might come about 10 o'clock night. Friday, February 15th. This morning, Sanford took Black in the cutter and drove over to Stanton's for Sally to come and spend the day with us. I expected Arthur would come for her in the evening. Soon after he left, I heard a merry jingling of bells. On looking out, saw some gay horses and a 2-seated sleigh containing a gentleman and 3 ladies. In a moment, I recognized them as community people. Community people, like the Oneida community. Mrs. Dr. Norton came in, but said she could not stay more than 5 minutes. They were all going to Mrs. L's to Verona. Josie proposed to her to stop on her way back and stay the night with us. She said she would think of it. About 4 o'clock she came. Saturday, February 16th, Josie expected to have taken Mrs. W. home, but she had made an engagement to go up to Oneida on the 12:50 train, I think, with Miss Mary Blank. So Sanford took her to the depot, and in the afternoon he took me to Oneida. Josie went just an hour or so before us with Nellie for lumber. Mother stayed alone. After Sanford took Mrs. W. to the depot, he drove to the office for the mail. He brought a letter from John Dorrance and an 8-paged one from Elmira. I was so glad of it. We felt disappointed when Sanford came back last Friday without Sally, but it happened well on account of Mrs. Norton's coming. Sunday, February 17th, it looks a little wintry out. Monday, February 18th, Sanford is, I expect, on the last week of the winter term of school. There are so few scholars, it is thought best to discontinue it. Sanford and Rose Lanning are frequently the only ones present. The Dygerts have had typhoid fever, and the Kellys are down with scarlet fever, as well as Johnny Hall. Tuesday, February 19th, Sanford says tomorrow is the last day of school. Yesterday there were 3 scholars, today only 2. After school, Josie and Sanford went up in the cutter to Verona and drove to Case's to ascertain when he would come up to make the barn doors. Emma and Case had gone out to spend the evening, and said, so Josie left word to have him come the next favorable day. Wednesday, February 20th, tonight, Sanford came from school with his books and other school effects, saying it was closed, and Mr. Jackson said perhaps he should come here this evening. About the time school closed, Sarah B. came. She said her people were going to Verona, and she would stay until they came back. She left Delph Patton's the Saturday after he was married. Thursday, February 21st, this morning, Emma and Case came and spent the day. Went home about 9 o'clock evening. Josie let them have over a bushel of nice apples and about a peck, maybe, of onions. PK, I think, stands for peck. Pickled pepper. Josie's family are there living. Again, I don't know what this means. I sent the children some cake and peppercorns. Emma made me some yeast. Emma says she and Case, with Sally and S, spent last Tuesday evening at Mr. Conley's. She said they told Mrs. Conley last Sabbath at church that they would go that evening. They had sweet walnuts they had sweet walnuts with silver forks for nut pickers. She writes like a forward slash rather than like parentheses. So, sorry. They had sweet walnuts with silver forks for nut pickers and apples, then coconut cake and fruit cake passed in a silver basket with ice cream. Saturday, February 23rd, this afternoon I hurried about my housework and did at least get started over to Mrs. Hinman's after several fruitless attempts. Sanford took me over in the cutter and I was to wait there until he drove up to Verona for the mail. It was about 1 o'clock when I left Mrs. H. I called at Mrs. Gilchrist's door and asked after her and baby. On getting home, I found Sally and Arthur here. Had supper to get for our family and them. It was about 12 o'clock when they left. Sunday, February 24th, I have been feeling sick all day. Monday, February 25th, I hung out some clothes washed last week. Mrs. M. and Willie came up and stayed quite a while. Mr. Morris came in towards evening. Tuesday, February 26th, a bright, lovely day, but a sharp, cold northwest wind. Sanford came in and urged me so hard to go with him to slide that I yielded and really had a nice time. I put on Josie's great overcoat and my hood and sallied forth. It was a broad sheet of ice back of the hop house where our sliding ground lay, and over again Sanford took me. After I was seated on the sled with its 4 stakes, Sanford would go behind me and push. Just at dusk, Mr. Smith and Harry A. came and paid Josie $56.56 for drying Annette's hops last fall, I think, and then troubled with them in the hop house ever since. The Annetts are low, ill-bred fellows, and the pay due from them seemed doubtful. Oh, no. Wednesday, there's nothing there. It kind of runs over from the last day. And the last day we're going to read, because I am out of time right now, is Thursday, February 28th, a warm, sunny day. During the morning, Josie and Sanford went up to Mr. Brown's sale. About 2 o'clock, Mother and I had a call from the Reverend Mr. James, who is filling Mr. Bigger's place. He introduced himself, chatted quite pleasantly for a while, and said before leaving that he offers prayers and readings when acceptable, which he was told would be. He seemed more flowery than Mr. Bigger, but I doubt whether he is as solid. He looks about 35 years, has a wife and 3 children, the eldest about 3 years. So I'm going to stop before we get interrupted by talking. I will continue on in part 2. We're going to complete the whole diary. However, for those of you who are new here, here's how I do it. I read this first episode publicly, put it on my YouTube so you can get an idea of what this diary is about, and if you want to continue following along. And if you are interested in hearing the rest of it, as well as the rest of any of the other diaries that I have read on my channel, I do the same thing. There's one free episode. The rest of them you can find by joining my Buy Me a Coffee page, and I will have the link in the description. I have 2 levels. There's not really a difference between them. Once in a while I'll put out something for fun, for free, a little digital file of some sort for the $5 menu members. And but there's a $3 and $5, just depends how much you want to support me. And I post pretty much every week. And there are little kind of bonus things here and there if I find pictures or more information to share and stuff like that. You can also get downloads of each diary for $5 each. Unless it's a smaller one, then it's less. And if it's a set of them, sometimes I put them together, sometimes they're separate. So you can download them to read along or read ahead or try to do research on your own. And for Eliza's, I include my transcription. I don't do this for every diary. I definitely do it for hers because her handwriting can get pretty small and difficult to read. So this just makes it easier. I would love to do it for all the diaries at some point. Maybe I will. ChatGPT has been very helpful. I'm working on some French letters. Again, I've done some French letters. I'm working on more, and a French diary this is an amazing tool because it can actually read some handwriting. Eliza's, it's still a little rough on that. I think I'm still better doing it on my own. But anyway, yes, if you want to follow along or research or, you know, just support the cause, which is what I'm doing is I buy these diaries. I've slowed down because I have quite a collection and I can't spend so much. I buy the diaries that I think are interesting, read them and research them, share them here, and I try to find living family members to return them to. And I've had a couple of successes so far, like 4 or 5, working on another one. I'll share about that later. That's actually a set of letters. So when I am able to reach a family member, I like to tell them, I like to, you know, tell them how much I paid for the diary, but also that, you know, if they can't afford to like pay me back because they can get expensive, that my buy me a coffee readings and whatnot have it covered. So that's kind of what this fund is for. So it can help me buy the diaries and be able to return them without, I mean, because Eliza's collection cost me a lot. Of course, finding a living family, oh my goodness, it's 100 years later. But that's why. That's so I can kind of fund the return of the diaries in this long-term project. So head over there, join us, and hopefully I'll see you for the next reading. Ciao!